Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The Ukraine Crisis Media Center starts its work. The topic of the first press briefing: failure of police attestation, the reasons and the responsible. Our guests are Pavlo Kaschuk, representative of Combat UA organization, Yevgen Golubenko, Roman Synitsyn, Narodnyi Tyl organization, Oleg Pushak, activist of Automaidan, and Kateryna Butko, activist of Automaidan. Welcome on stage. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Firstly, I would like to greet you with the professional holiday. This is Day of the Journalist, so we greet all the journalists, but our topic is rather sad. Firstly, I would like to speak about preconditions. The reform of the Ministry of Interior is one of the main part of the reform, and we should clear the system of old police and replace it with new. And this is going through re-attestation that was started about 1.5 years ago. And under the pressure of civil society and reformers and foreign partners, it was decided to include representatives of civil society in the process that would guarantee the transparency of the process and fairness of all the procedures. And we were invited as members of civil society and members of movements, and we got involved in the process. It was difficult, but very important. But taking into account the situation, we decided to get out of this process, and we do not want to be responsible for the results of this process, because, honestly speaking, we do not want to be so-called curtain of the process that is just wrong. Thank you. Yevgen Golubenko, Automaidan activist. Yes, we joined this process, and at some stages we were involved, about 30 people from our organizations in different regions of our country. Working on the commissions, we found technical faults in the process, and we reported on this to recruiting center and to the national police. After re-attestation, there was a break. The last region was Odessa and Mykolaiv, and we believe that during this time they will remove technicalities such as small time limit for attestation, and there was a break for a month, and we believe that these faults will be removed. But after attestation was restarted, we saw that the representatives of the ministry and the representative of old system took hold. And the commissions were imbalanced, and the majority on the commission were the representatives of the ministry, and the minority was from the civil society, and it prevented the influence of civil society on this process. These activists, they were selected in the regions not by recruiting center, but by the ministry. These people headed the commissions that also attested the heads of oblasts, and also some civil society activists were selected, and heads of the commissions were selected, and there were documents on, it was done by Mr. Apostol, and he got the money from the party of regions according to the lists that were presented by the representatives of civil society. So there is no trust now we don't believe these people, and we do not believe that they will carry out the vetting process and reattestation properly. This process reminds the process when in the prosecutor's office there was vetting for the heads of regional prosecutor's office heads, and they selected the representatives of local prosecutors' offices, and now this process is on the way in national police, and the advisors of Avakov, they select new policemen. Good afternoon. I greet you with the Day of Journalists. I am the representative of Narodnyi Tyl organization, and we delegated 15 people to 6 regions, so we understand this attestation. From inside, we saw everything that is going on. We tried to improve the process. We also spoke with the recruiting center, and we tried to find solutions to the problems, but unfortunately, it all went wrong, not as we wanted. And now we may say that in attestation committee there is a revanche to the benefit of the old system, and attestation is carried out in the regions after Odessa and Mykolaiv regions. It shows that the reform is not implemented, and in my opinion this is all wrong. And to the large extent, it is connected with the fact that the number of people who were fired, it was small, but now it is critically small. And one of the oblasts, from 28 people, they fired only 1 person. So is this real reform? Is it possible to break the bones of the old system in such a way? And statistics is not in our favor, and those figures that were provided in Kiev and Kiev Oblast, they said that 70% were fired, and then Avakov said that on the whole in Ukraine 30% were fired, and I don't know where this data comes from. We had representatives of most of the commissions, and this percentage is lower. This is about statistics. And also we declare that Narodnyi Tyl is out now of the process of attestation. We do not want to take part in this process. We do not want to be responsible for these processes, because people, they connect attestation with public activists, but in reality, old system representatives select these activists. And there are so-called police activists, they just raise their hands and that's all. We do not want to take part in this. Thank you. Oleg Pushak of Automaidan. If we are speaking about legislation on this, we should say that it was developed by the Department of Legal Affairs that was in times of Zakharchenko. And when we started to work in attestation commissions, we pointed out that about these documents, we believe that these documents are outdated, and we told about it. So they told us that everything is okay with the documents. Then there were many cases filed in the courts, and then they said, join us, be involved in the process, let's create some amendments. What we see now, the main message of the representatives of the Ministry of Interior, is that bad courts take negative decisions. But these bugs, we could we could add some provisions, and let's say so, we could avoid some faults that policemen use to be reinstated in their positions, and they annul all the work of the commissions. And the control on the process of attestation was taken by loyalists of Avakov, his advisors, because in normative legislation it is not said who select civil society activists for the process and how police officers are distributed and selected, and how these those who are tested are distributed among commissions. So there are no clear norms in legislation. So what we see, what is going on in courts with those people who filed the cases to be reinstated in their positions. In each oblast, several lawyers from the Ministry of Internal Affairs works, and there are hundreds of cases filed, and in large cities maybe about 1,000 of those police officers who did not undergo reattestation. So how can one person work on so many cases? So this is a sabotage from the side of the ministry as to the process of reinstatement and as to proceedings in this case. So I would like to note, I would like to comment for you to understand. So those people who were fired, they file a case in the courts, and they try to reinstate themselves in the positions. So the police should be represented at one side, not at both sides. And if we are speaking about these cases, the majority of these officers who were fired, some of them are dollar millionaires, and they can have really expensive lawyers. And sometimes young lawyers come from the police, and the number of this policemen is not enough. They cannot defend the decision of the commission. So there are many court hearings, and they are in many regions, so this is just impossible. So the representatives of police, they do not defend in some instances the decisions of attestation commissions. And we heard the opinion of judges, and they could take the decision because they didn't have the grounds. They had grounds to take decision, but they take decision because, for example, there is a lawyer, and from other side there is no lawyer at all. So they do not want to interfere in this process. I would like to add, it's rather surprising that sometimes the representatives of the defendants, they don't have the contacts. They are not provided with contacts with us, and to carry out some meetings, some round tables on how to act in courts, how to build defense. So it's very difficult to inform them on this, because they do not have contacts with us, and maybe we will see that many officers will be reinstated in their positions due to court decisions. Good afternoon, Kateryna Butko, Automaidan activist. As my colleague stated, the process of attestation was not ideal, but the part of the faults could be explained by the scope and the importance of the process that was carried out for the first time in our country. But the new mechanism of attestation destroyed the main criteria of the success of this phenomena. So we tried to replace the old system with the new one. So this mechanism was fully controlled by Avakov and the old system that he represents. According to this mechanism, attestation was carried out in many regions. That's why we do not want to return to this process of attestation now, but we understand that attestation is only a small part of full-scale reform of the Ministry of Internal Affairs we all hope for, and we would like to join and to help the heads of the police. And as to attestation, the only way out that we see from the situation that was created is re-attestation, second wave of attestations, with taking into account all the faults that were clear from the very start, and the representatives of the old system should be excluded, including Arsen Avakov, both directly or indirectly. If there is a decision on the new wave of attestation, we are ready to join and to help to develop clear and transparent mechanism of attestation process in the future without intrusion of the old system. We have several minutes for comments and questions. Please introduce yourself.
Ina Bananka 1+1. I have the precision. You told that after Odessa and Mykolaiv there was a break, and after break it was fine. Before Odessa and Mykolaiv it was fine, you meant, or before Odessa and Mykolaiv there was some troubles, and of course it's normal for such large scope process, but it wasn't a complete change of the mechanism and complete control from ministry side. So we need to make re-attestation in all the regions or only in the regions where it was after Odessa and Mykolaiv. We think that attestation should happen not single time, but it should go by waves, and we want to have it this way to fix all the troubles. Most of the troubles we had from the first, second week and what we discussed before, unfortunately, they were not fixed. And these troubles during attestation in Kyiv, in other regions that were working from the very beginning, allowed many representatives of old system to go through this process, unfortunately. As these reasons were not fixed, re-attestation, I think re-attestation process is appropriate in the regions where it all started. And in Kyiv, this process was just tested, and I'm not sure that the capital wasn't the best option to test it. And what about statistics? How many percents were fired due to your dates? Due to your datas? It depends, because different employees of the trial give different data, but we don't have clear list of the people who went to attestation and list of decisions that were taken on them, and that's why we connected to HR departments. We told Mrs. Dekanaidze about these problems. Because if we had that clear list, we could have some public control. You could go and have a look at it, but we don't have this data. And in which region only one person was fired, I can't answer you now, but I think this data will be published. It was in one of the last regions. But looking at the statistics, taking into consideration the decisions of the trial, this percentage of the fired people is critically low. We can speak only conditional about those figures we can see. We have no statistics as it is, but as Roman told, the representative of our organization were in the most of commissions. So on the level of exit poll, we can have some picture. But talking about Kyiv, this data we could see ourselves. They were different, and they were significantly different from official data, because in the first no more than 25% were fired, and this process didn't allow to cooperate the commissions, different commissions of different levels. There was a full informational gap, and the appellation commissions were working from the very beginning of the process. And after that, they fixed these mistakes on the first stage. And as for us, it wasn't approved because we have no statistics, but half of them were renewed by appeal committees. And the most of people who stayed, they will be renewed after the trials. When policemen came to us, good, bad, it doesn't matter. And we asked them, what do you think? How many policemen of the former system we need to fire to reform the system? And the least figure they told us was 30%. The biggest figure was 90%. And that's what representative of the old system told us themselves. And what we have now, we fire just 8, 9, 10%. So if you're talking about some district department of the team of 5 people were fired, for example, and let's imagine 5 new people came, and we had a hope that there are honest, transparent people. But where should we take these people? Where should we take the specialists who would agree to work on this low salary? What will be in 6 months with this 70%? I think that the old system can change them, but can we consider it a reform? That is an open question still. We don't have enough time left. In 4 minutes we have next press briefing, so let's finish our press briefing and see you next time.